Welcome, and thank you so much for clicking on my video. We have been talking about the daily retracement to happen, and we still have the opportunity for that, but based on the structure here, things may have changed. And so trading like water is going to be very important. Reacting to the signals that we do see over the next few days will be very important because we have seen a bullish enough move to potentially extend us to the monthly expected move right around 650 to 655. So we're going to talk about those things. Now, today, this video, if you are new here, what I do on this channel is I just try to say things and give you some things that can really help you out as a trader and maybe even help you in the next trade by giving you some daily expected moves. So we're going to give those off at the beginning of this video, and let's get into it. Now, I do like the structure that we're doing, kind of just giving you the daily expected moves at the beginning of the video. You have 637.64 to the upside and 626.36 to the downside. Pretty big expected moves. Nice move at the end of the day. Patreon members, hopefully that video during market hours around noon today was able to help you out in deciding, hey, is this market really showing me that it's going to roll down for a lower high? Or is it showing me something else? And that's overall what we were suggesting with that video. And that's the stuff we're going to talk about even further today, now that I've had some time to really think about how to discuss it. And we've seen the full information for the day. This is your time to potentially pause the video, especially if you have another screen. You want to draw things up for yourself, draw up your own ideas. This is a good time to do it. Get these red lines on your chart for tomorrow. We have some big implied volatility there. We're going to switch over to the Qs right away here just to make sure you have that information as well. And you can see that we have seen a too big of a reaction, is what I say, to just say this has to completely collapse. It definitely can, and we're going to get into that after you get these on your chart. 575.30 to the upside, 563.18 to the downside. What these is a calculation. It is using the options data to calculate a 68% zone, and 68% of the time we will land within these red lines, and 32% of the time you will see something a little crazy and outside of them. So for the SPY today, we actually went up and tagged the upper one and almost went all the way down to the bottom one. But we were talking about some things on Patreon, and I think it's time for us to get into those. So let's get into the actual analysis here. So the big thing is, I think going backwards from this is very, very good, right? We saw the signals for us to see some kind of drop. It was with the end of the month and things like that. But we were suggesting that this was not going to be a Black Monday, but instead a green one, and we were correct on that. We were expecting this to go and test higher levels in these areas with our previous video, and we went to test higher areas. But how we tested these higher areas is very interesting, and I think we need to talk about it today. Because the daily is overall pulling back, and we mentioned early on in the week, hey, if the daily's ever able to curl up, this thing might be done, and we could raise that floor a little bit. So what I wanted to do was do this into a 2-hour chart next, right before we go into the 30-minute. Make sure you got those daily expected moves there if you don't already. We see that the 2-hour is still close by the center line. And is the 2-hour very likely to roll, right? That's a big question there. Is the 2-hour likely to roll? We're going to talk about that as we get into the 30-minute chart. But here's how I'm treating this at the moment. If the 2-hour is able to roll, it is close to negative territory, meaning we can see a waterfall of selling. But if that waterfall of selling actually leans us into some kind of higher low or some kind of double bottom divergence, anything like that, then we may be done here as far as bearishness goes. And I wanted to point that out to you. Now I'm going to go into the 30-minute chart. That is the simplest way I can put it. If we do not see this 2-hour cross down and go negative and see some kind of wipeout kind of moment, but instead we see a little wipeout that catches itself eventually and turns back up, we may be heading to the upward August expected move. And so this is where it's important to understand I trade like water. And even though I had a theory over here, the market has shown to be very, very bullish. And when I say, is the 2-hour very likely to cross here, I look at the 30-minute chart. The 30-minute chart was able to go extremely positive here, meaning all it had to do when it took back the 5-day moving average as well is go down and retest into those levels and then see another reaction to the upside. And there is still, even if we do make some kind of divergence, if the 30-minute does curl up into positive territory, that is where we could see a tag of the daily and weekly expected move again. Look how the weekly expected move performed right here. So 637.64 to the upside. If the 30-minute is able to curl up there, that is where we could get to. We could get a 2-hour pullback, and then we could actually continue the move later on. So if we don't see a big amount of selling here, but instead get a higher low or a divergence, we may head to the upward August expected move. The data that we have gotten, the market proving itself, did not prove itself in a way that it is obviously, hey, we are going to crash down right now. It is actually positioning in a way where it's kind of a flip-flop, but also it's positioning in a way that if it's not obviously going to turn down, then maybe it's the opposite and it could turn to the upside and we head to the upward monthly expected move. So I wanted to point those things out to you today, and I'm telling you it as plainly as I can. I've thought about this all day. So overall, tomorrow, really what we're looking for is either do we reject and see that 2-hour cross and see a waterfall of selling? Do we reject and see that 2-hour cross and see a higher low form? Or are we just going to turn up the 30-minute chart as it is in positive territory, as it has a great confirmation at the end of the day? Not necessarily on your MACD, but you do have it on your RSI and the chart here above all of these moving averages, which means right now, as far as it goes, you have more inclination that you're actually heading to the upside. And if you create a divergence, you could set some kind of bull trap at the end of the week, get a 2-hour pullback that then is able to catch itself again. And I think that that is super interesting. A lot of this will make even more sense as we go over to volatility because it's saying the exact same thing. And this channel is not to make you feel good with your bias. This channel is to tell you exactly how the market is shaping up as of right now. And it says, yes, the 2-hour can turn down, but if you do not see a big wave of selling that wipes out a higher low, a chance at a higher low, or wipes out divergence, then this market can turn back to the upside and start heading to the upward monthly expected move. And this is even more relevant when you get to the Qs. The 2-hour is positive. If it would drop from here, that would be a lower high. You would expect a new low and you would want to see a deeper price. And if a divergence forms, well, then that can reverse right back to the upside. If a higher low forms, well, we're going to head to the upside. And a 2-hour higher low is very important because it means we might need to remake these old signals back here. And we could see another moment where we do squeeze and grind higher into the upside monthly expected move, maybe even by August 22nd. So this is very, very important to watch. And so I'd really be, especially if I have trades tomorrow, I'd be paying attention to the upward expected move. We are seeing that the 30-minute for the Qs went even more positive than the SPY. It didn't have to go all the way down to the 5. There is still availability for that. But we do notice with this good confirmation, with the RSI just barely crossing through, that would say that you have a high probability if that MACD curls up, 575.30 for the Qs, meaning we have ourselves a potential new high. So that's very important. Now, I'm not planning on doing something like this and seeing if this just squeezes through and goes to the sky. My plan here is see if we're able to pull back on the 2-hour and then see if that 2-hour can pull back up. So as far as my thinking goes, I wanted to talk about the Qs a little bit differently. They're outside of the weekly expected move. You're seeing something crazy. The 2-hour, if it were to cross down, there is risk of another big drop. So what I'm going to do as far as tomorrow goes is build some kind of volatility position in case that 2-hour is a big drop, but I'm going to pay attention right in here to see if we're able to curl back to the upside and say, actually, we're going to that upward monthly expected move for the Qs. And so at this moment, I think I zoomed out for the SPY, but I wanted to zoom out for the Qs so that you can see 538.37 to the downside and 591.65 to the upside. And these are the things that I am seriously paying attention to. I'm trying to explain them to the best of my ability. I'm not trying to convince you of anything here. I'm not trying to tell you anything. I'm just telling you how I am seeing the market right now. And how I am seeing the market right now is, yes, it looks like it is pretty dang controlled. But for now, if we're able to catch ourselves with the 2-hour higher low scenario, then this thing might be heading to the upward expected move. If we are not going to catch ourselves with the 2-hour scenario, but drop down and see something mean instead, that is when I think we could head to the lower one. So it's very important to watch this, and that's why I will describe my plan one more time. if we do go make a reversal signal up here on the 30-minute, the 2-hour is close to the center line. That could still potentially be some form of divergence. That could lead us into a big drop. So I am going to buy some volatility if I see the reason to buy volatility tomorrow in the afternoon. If that then drops down, I will watch it carefully for signs that it wants to turn around, because if the 2-hour turns up, that might be a trap to actually head up into August 22nd, maybe even the end of the month. If we do not see any of that form down here, well, then we are very likely to head to the downside monthly expected move. And I know I'm flipping between multiple charts, multiple time frames and things like that. Just try to stick with me and watch the video twice if you need to. I know that in this standpoint, I really do know that I might not be explaining this the best, but this is how you overall trade like water. You understand that the signals are not necessarily perfect or even great at this point for the next big drop. And a lot of volatility can tell you that. Volatility still suggests that we could make a higher low, still suggests that we could make a divergence and see some kind of 2-hour pop. But if the 30-minute curls down, it's going to go negative, which means that we could head up tomorrow. And if we see a divergence form, we could see a 2-hour pullback. And if that 2-hour pullback in the SPY causes this big move in volatility to only create a lower high, well, then we might need to actually head down lower, and we might actually see another daily divergence point. So this is going to be a very critical time to be trading like water, because as you can look at this 2-hour, you see that the positioning of the MACD is a little bit lower than the center line. That means we should pay attention to things like divergence. We should pay attention to things like a lower high. So why would we overall say, yes, we are going to see a mega drop? A mega drop is possible here, but instead, we would also say, but I'm going to be very aware if a 2-hour higher low happens for the SPY. I'm going to be very aware if the 2-hour for volatility makes a lower high, because it'll be very, very critical in understanding which monthly move we are very likely to test. So if VIX is able to make a lower high and cause this 2-hour on the MACD to curl up, but then curl back down with that lower high, well, then we might be actually heading to the upward monthly expected move, and I wanted to make you very aware of that. So I had to make this video a little bit short, but for tomorrow, for your main takeaway at the end of this video, we can see that we are taking back the 5. We can see that the 30-minute, if it curled up, it would be positive, which means maybe if that curls up, we can head up to 637.64. And then if we're able to roll from that standpoint, what if we create that divergence that then causes the 2-hour to cross? But if the 2-hour does cross, we have seen enough bullishness come in that if that would catch itself, we would want to pay critical attention. Because if we're able to get a slingshot moment from here and see some kind of breakthrough, we could end up seeing a big surge, another squeeze to the monthly upward expected move towards 655.88. I want to be very, very clear about that. If we are not able to make a higher low, but instead we just see a wave of volatility come in and we drop down to lower levels, that would be where we head to the bottom side expected move. So I just wanted to point this stuff out. It looks like a lot of things are changing here. It is not as obvious as you would like it to be calling out some kind of massive drop, but it looks like this market may have the ability to remain resilient for some time here, which makes me a little bit worried about September OpEx. But for now, we will just take this in stride, work on what the market is actually proving to us. And right now, it's proving to us that we should, even if a big drop can happen, a higher low can happen as well. And I wanted to make you guys aware of that. That is not going to be something that is going to really confuse you. We will continue to update you on this stuff all week long throughout these videos. We will continue to give you things like daily expected moves for all the stocks that we cover on the right side of my screen. I am going to work on those and post those to Patreon right after this video is finished. So if you would like to join, the link is down in the description. If any of this stuff is seriously confusing you, I know I maybe wasn't the best at explaining these things today. At least that's my opinion personally, because I think this is a complex look in some way. If this is confusing you in any way, and maybe if you need some more information on this, if you want to understand these weekly expected moves, if you want to understand the daily expected moves, the monthly expected moves, The full technical analysis course is down there in the description. It is 90% off during this time for these exact reasons. This is going to be a time where we could head sideways. This is going to be a time where we could head up. And this is going to be a time where we have to wait a few days to see if we're going to head up or head down to a monthly expected move. So you will have some time here to try to learn a little bit more, to try to get a little bit better. And the full technical analysis course is only $100 this month for my birthday, and because I thought this market would be a little bit wild in August. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I hope you guys were able to take something helpful away from it, and maybe I'll be able to explain this even better after a little bit more information so that it can make a little bit more sense to you. Thank you so much and have a nice night. Peace out.